next fly that I'm working on is a special order fly from one of my good buddies who was just learning how to tie, and he wanted to know how to tie a rubber-legged woolly booger. I've already tied up a cone-headed woolly booger, showing him how to do that, and so now I'm going to tie a cone-headed rubber-legged woolly booger. And as you can see, I've already gotten this one started. Just to save a little bit of time, I went ahead and tied in. I've tied in the tail. I've got the flash tied in. I started with a little bit of lead wire behind the eye to kind of hold everything in place. And now I've taken and moved my thread to the first place where I want to tie in my first set of rubber legs. And for this one, I am actually going to tie in. I'm going to tie in 2 sets of rubber legs. So since this is going to be an olive rubber leg woolly booger, I've chosen these kind of chartreuse and black rubber legs. So we take the first one. It's already cut to the size, pretty close to the size that I want it, and got the thread where we want the rubber leg to go. Take the rubber leg and lay it down, and try to lay it so that the hook splits the rubber leg in half. And make one wrap in one direction, and then pull this closest leg back and make another wrap in the opposite direction. Okay, so it's just 2 wraps so far, and as you can tell, those rubber legs aren't exactly where we want them to be. So from there, we're just going to continue to wrap around, which is going to slowly shift those rubber legs until we get them to exactly where we want them to be. And for me personally, I don't like the rubber legs to stick straight out. I want them to kind of to face back towards the tail of the hook. So this is what I'm looking for when I finish. Okay, and it's okay if they're not exactly the same length, because we can trim them a little bit when we get finished. So there's the first one. Now we're going to take our thread and move it up to where we want the second one, which looks like I'm about at 3/4 length of the hook. And again, got the same length of a rubber leg, and we do the same thing. Lay it down so you think the hook splits it about in half. Make that first wrap, and then the second wrap, that secures them down pretty well. And then it's just a matter of getting them exactly where you want them to be. And just keep wrapping them. If you can tell, I'm going from behind the rubber leg and wrapping over the top of them. That's going to kind of get them to face back towards the tail of the hook. Okay, so this is what they should look like when we get finished. Alright, now that we've got the rubber legs tied in, now we can finish by basically tying a woolly booger, where you're going to finish by tying the rest the same way that you would tie a woolly booger. You're just going to have some rubber legs in the way as you start to tie that. To begin with, we want to tie in our rib, and for this fly I'm using silver. I've also used gold wire, but I have some silver wire laying around, so I'll use silver. And get that tied down good and tight. Bring the thread back to the tail of the hook again, and then tie in what we're going to use for the body. And in this case, you can use regular chenille, you can use Estaz. What I've got here is just some small light olive flash chenille. I'm not sure if there's an actual name for it, but that's kind of what it looks like. And to tie that down, we're going to grab the end of that and strip the flash off of it, so all you can see is the string. And that's the part that you're actually going to tie down. see the rubber legs like to get in the way, but make enough wrap so that you know that's tied down secure. And then take the thread and we're going to bring it to the eye of the hook. And wrap through your rubber leg. And there we go. We got the thread to the eye of the hook. Now we're going to wrap our body. So we start with the chenille. And again, the rubber legs like to get in the way. So you kind of have to be a little bit dexterous. If you take and you pull your rubber legs back, make sure you don't get into the tail in there. Pull your rubber legs back, wrap around, and you can let go of them, pull the chenille, and just continue to do that until you get up to your rubber legs. Now this, you want to make sure that you tie, or that you wrap this chenille in a place where it's not going to affect the shape of the rubber leg. Try to go right behind the rubber leg, and then try to go right in front of the rubber leg, and make our way all the way to the top. And go ahead and tie that down. Trim it off. Okay, last thing that we need to do is, just as we do on the woolly booger, this is where we're going to tie in our hackle. Okay, this looks like a decent hackle. So if you look at the hackle, you can tell that part of it is a little bit bushy and part of it is not. We're going to strip that back, trim it off, and then we're going to clip first few fibers. Now that little piece where we trim the fibers for, take that and shove it underneath the cone and then tie over the top of it, and that should secure it down good and tight. Okay, now take your hackle and make a wrap right up by the eye of the hook, right behind the cone, and then slowly work your way back. And this is where you have to be able to hold on to your rubber legs and wrap the hackle at the same time. And there we go. We made it to the back of the hook. And again, we take our wire and holding onto the hackle in one hand, take the wire in the other hand and wrap over the top of the hackle, and that's going to secure it down. And then we just work the wire forward. As you do that, make sure you move it back and forth so that you don't trap any of the hackle fibers. And work it all the way up to the top of the hook, right behind the cone. And if you can, you can try to make, usually if you make about 4 or 5 good hard tight wraps around there, then you can just twist the wire off, and that way you don't have to cut it. And last step is to add a whip finish. Trim the back end of the hackle that you still have back there, and that is what a rubber leg woolly booger should look like. There's the side view, and that's what it looks like from the top. And when you get to this point, if your legs aren't exactly the length that you want them, usually you can just snip them if you need to. That's a cone-headed rubber-legged woolly booger.